Central Tehran, so often empty during 12 days of war, today crowded with thousands of people for what Iranian authorities called the funeral procession of the martyrs of power. A title bestowed on 60 of those killed during Israel's sustained bombing campaign, including 10 senior military commanders, at least 16 nuclear scientists and members of their families. Familiar slogans on display: death to America, Israel and Britain, along with declarations of loyalty to the regime.
We will make that bloodsucker Trump realize that he is nothing.
America, be aware that we are here. You won't be able to find our leader.
The head of the Revolutionary Guard's Quds force also on the streets, saying if everyone stood behind the supreme leader, all would be right. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was himself notably absent, even if the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, was in attendance. Other senior figures keeping a low profile, among them the Speaker of the Parliament. But for now at least, far from fueling popular revolt, the Israeli and US strikes have resulted in a crackdown on dissent.
Ali Khamenei hasn't come out of his rat hole. He takes our children and executes them on charges of espionage. They are the real spies, not our children. Why do you arrest our innocent children? Ali Khamenei, you are the traitor.
The question now, will US-Iran talks resume? Khamenei says the nuclear program will continue. Donald Trump that he'll bomb it again if needed. The immediate diplomatic focus shifting back to Gaza, where today an Israeli airstrike on tents in southern al-Mawasi killed 6 people, including an entire family. Accelerating talk now of a ceasefire deal there, a senior Israeli official due in Washington on Monday for talks with President Trump.
We think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to.
But to Gaza's crisis of hunger, the added dimension now of intra-Palestinian conflict. Images from last night show a gun battle between an armed group facilitated by the Israeli military and Hamas fighters inside Al-Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis. Israel's army chief says the military offensive will soon reach the lines defined by the government. A ceasefire yearned for by so many, but what Gaza might look like in its aftermath, still no clearer.
Well, the Israeli hostage negotiator Gershon Baskin joins me now. Gershon Baskin, Trump there saying ceasefire, possible peace deal within a week. Is that believable or not?
Well, it is believable if President Trump is serious about it. He forced Netanyahu to accept an end to the war with Iran. He can force Netanyahu to accept an end of war in Gaza as well. This is the missing piece in the puzzle because Hamas has said they will not make any deal with Israel that does not end the war. And until now, Netanyahu has not agreed to end the war.
Well, yeah, but that's stalemate. How does Trump get past that?
It's not a stalemate at all. Israel is completely dependent on Trump. Trump gave an order to Israel to return the jets that was on their way to bomb Tehran once again, and the jets made a U-turn. And then he told Netanyahu to end the war, and Netanyahu declared an end to the war. There's no question here. If Trump tells Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza is over.
I mean, is there, from your, are you in contact with your Hamas contact, who you've been in contact in the past with, Ghazi Hamad? I just wonder what sense he's giving of any sort of give from the Hamas end.
Right, I haven't heard from Ghazi Hamad in quite some time. I understand he's one of the key players right now in the negotiations. He is one of the people talking directly to the American negotiators, and I have been talking to the American, the Qatari, and the Egyptian mediators. So I have a sense of what's going on. And while the Israelis say that Hamas is not demonstrating any flexibility, there's no reason to expect that Hamas would say anything less than end the war. Hamas has said that they're willing to give up governance of Gaza. The question about laying down their weapons is a question that has to be dealt with after the war. And it is actually an internal Palestinian question because President Abbas assured President Macron recently that they would ensure that there are no armed groups left in Gaza. This is something that the Palestinians and the Arab states can take on. They can do the heavy lifting here. Hamas will not surrender to Israel, but they will surrender to the Palestinian people and the Arab brothers.
Right. I mean, has this Iran deal and the fact that there's been a ceasefire there, has it given new momentum and sort of encouragement to Netanyahu to agree something in Gaza?
Well, I think not. I think that Netanyahu is now worried that Trump is going to force a ceasefire on him, as he did in Iran. I don't think there's any reason to believe that the victory of Israel in Iran has any persuasion on Hamas to change its basic line of ending the war. Perhaps it encourages Trump, because he succeeded in bringing an end to the war in Iran, that he will do it in Gaza as well.
So he might lay down the law with Netanyahu.
Sorry?
He might lay down the law with Netanyahu.
Exactly. That's the only way this war is going to end right now, is if Trump lays down the law and tells Netanyahu to end it.
These reports that Trump is linking a peace deal to a demand to cancel Netanyahu's criminal trial. I mean, there is a feeling, isn't there, that Netanyahu could call new elections and that he could possibly win?
Well, he could call new elections. According to the polls, he can't win. He won't be able to form another government. From all the polls since last October 7th, since the day that Israel failed to protect itself, Netanyahu and his coalition partners do not get enough votes in the polls to form a government. But of course, the only date of the polls that really matters is on election day. Netanyahu is a political magician, but I don't think the people of Israel will forget that he was in charge on October 7th, that he was responsible for funding Hamas, that he failed to see the dangers that existed in Hamas and failed to post the Israeli army on the border on October 7th to defend its borders.
Gershon Baskin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, relatives of the hostages still being held in Gaza have been holding a rally in Tel Aviv, calling for their immediate release as part of a deal to end the war. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, is there. Alex.
Yes, indeed, rather noisy hostage square here in Tel Aviv. I'm joined by Ilan Dalal, whose son Guy was kidnapped back on October the 7th. He was 22 then, he is now 24. Ilan, thanks for joining us. What's Guy like?
Well, Guy is my middle son. He has an older brother, Gal, which was with him in the Nova Music Festival, and he survived, luckily, and a younger sister. Guy is a very talented guitar player from very little age. He just finished his education in computer science before he was abducted. And his big dream was to go to visit Japan. In order to do that, he teach himself to speak and to write Japanese. And it was meant to be on his big trip, but he couldn't make it.
Right. Now, when you hear Prime Minister Netanyahu saying after Iran there's an opportunity, how did that strike you?
Well, it's given us a lot of optimism, because right now we're in a different situation after beating Hezbollah and beating Iran and fighting over 20 months in Gaza right now. I think this is exactly the time to stop the war and make an overall deal with President Trump and other participants from the international community and bring back all the hostages.
And when you listen and you hear the right wing here in Israel say, no, the war must continue, smash Hamas, what do you think?
Well, right now, these voices are minority in Israel. The most of the people voted to end the war and bring back the hostages. So I believe there will always be voices like this, but right now they're not affect too much.
And yet, as you well know better than I, Ilan, we've had a deal before. It was in place. Palestinian prisoners were coming out. The hostages were coming out in some numbers. Netanyahu walked away from that.
Yeah, this was a few months ago, and it was a different situation then. Right now, we're in a whole different situation. After beating Iran and Hezbollah, right now, I think that Netanyahu finished his goals in eliminating the threat on Israel from all around, and this is the time for a deal.
Ilan, thanks very much indeed for joining us, and may your son be home soon. Thank you. Back to you in London.